Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and welcome back. In the previous segment, we discussed the cartilage, its types, and its functions, and some examples. And then we saw what are ligaments, what are their function, and what is their structure. In this segment, we will discuss types of joints. And we will classify joints based on two factors. One factor is structure, and the other factor will be the range of movement. So what is meant by structure? Structure is actually the material that is binding the two bones. So based on that factor, based on structure, we have three types of joints. First type is fibrous joints. So in these joints, there is no joint cavity. Bones are held together by fibrous tissue. Fibrous tissue. Let's suppose some ligament. And with respect to movement, we will see later in detail that these fibrous joints are immovable joints. Second types of joints with respect to structure is cartilaginous joints. So cartilaginous means they have something to do with cartilage. Bones are united by cartilage, generally fibrocartilage. And fibrocartilage is cartilage having fibers for strength, as we saw in the previous segment. These cartilaginous joints, further with respect to movement, can be slightly movable or immovable. So we can say that immovable joints could be fibrous joints, or immovable joints could also be cartilaginous joints. But some of these cartilaginous joints have some movement possible. And the third type of joints, and with respect to structure, are synovial joints. Bones are joined by cartilage here, but here the cartilage is hyaline cartilage. These joints have, the hyaline cartilage, and these are freely movable joints. So fibrous joints are immovable, cartilaginous can be slightly movable or immovable, and synovial joints are freely movable. Now, why these joints are called synovial joints? So we will see in detail that actually when two bones make a joint, at the end of the joints is a cartilage, and there is some cavity, there is some gap between those two joining bones. So that cavity is actually encapsulated by a layer, and from the inside of that layer, a liquid is discharged, and that acts as lubricant. So that actually liquid is called synovium. So that is why these joints are called synovial joints. So we will see their structure in some detail. The second way to classify the joints is based on movement that is possible. So based on this factor, we have three types of joints: the joint that have no movement at all, the joint that have limited movement, and joint that can be moved freely. And again, these are actually the synovial joints. So these are called synovial because bone ends are separated by a joint cavity, and inside is synovial fluid. So let's see a few examples of joints based on structure, and then we will see them in more detail with respect to the movement. So first type of joint were fibrous joints. So with respect to movement, they are immovable joints. The classical example is your suture, the joint of your skull. So you can see that this is sort of stitched. These parts of the skull are sort of stitched together. And actually there is some fibrous structure that is actually sort of stitching these different parts of the skull together. So there are different parts of the skull. For example, this is a different part, just sort of mirror image. these two parts, for example, and this is a different part, and on the right and left there is a part of skull as well. But the joint actually that is formed is just like stitched together. You can see more clearly here. So there are dense fibrous connective tissues that are making this joint. So this is an example of fibrous joints because joining structure is are actually fibrous, and this is immovable joint. Bones cannot move with respect to each other. Another example of immovable joint is the joint at the distal end of fibula and tibia, of tibia and fibula. So this is tibia, this is fibula, and this joint at the distal end of these two bones is also immovable joint. This is by structure fibrous joint, and here the fibrous structure is a ligament. So that ligament is actually holding these two bones together, and it is not allowing any movement. So by structure it is fibrous joint, and with respect to movement it is immovable joint. So these are two examples of fibrous joints and immovable joints. So your suture and the joint at the distal end of tibia and fibula. Another example of immovable joint, but by structure this is cartilaginous joint, is your joint between your ribs and sternum. We have discussed it already that this joint between your ribs and sternum, this is also immovable joint. But by structure, this is not fibrous joint, but this is cartilaginous joint because the joining structure is not fiber, but it is cartilage. So cartilaginous joint by structure and immovable joint with respect to movement. So as we saw that cartilaginous joints can be immovable or slightly movable. So joint between ribs and sternum was cartilaginous but immovable joint, but the joint between your vertebrae and intervertebral disc, or the joint between, okay, we will take this example at the moment. So this joint is an example of slightly movable joint. There is some movement possible. It's actually not exactly shown exactly clearly here, but the joint that is formed between two adjacent vertebrae also has cartilage at the end. So that joint is also slightly movable. So that is also an example of slightly movable cartilaginous joint. And finally, we have synovial joints. These are example of freely movable joints. So for example, your shoulder joint is the classical example of freely movable joint with respect to movement, and synovial joint with respect to structure. We will see many examples of synovial joint because our next portion of this lecture will discuss synovial joints in detail. So your shoulder joint, the joint between your finger, your wrist joint, your elbow joint, knee joint, all are examples of synovial joints, and they are all freely movable joints. So we have discussed it already that these joints are lubricated by synovial fluid. The ends of these joints are coated with hyaline cartilage. At the end of both bones there is a cartilage, and in between there is a narrow space that is actually called joint cavity. So that cavity or gap actually gives us freedom of movement. So if the bones were joining together, exactly there will be no freedom of movement, but there is some gap that gives freedom of movements. And ligaments bind the bones to prevent dislocation and limit the joints movement. So we have seen that role of ligaments already. So this is a structure of typical synovial joint. So I will quickly go through it. So there is one bone, the second bone, and at the end of those bone, this thing is the articular cartilage. Articular mean this cartilage actually makes the joint. So at the end of both bone, there is cartilage, and there is a space. You can see this is the space between these two bones. That is actually your joint cavity, and this cavity contains synovial fluid. And where does this fluid come? So you can see there are two layers actually around this joint. The outside layer is a capsule, a structure that in cases that encloses actually this joint as a whole, and the inner layer is actually synovial membrane. So that membrane actually uh, discharges or provides the synovial fluid, and that synovial fluid actually keeps this area lubricated, and again this gap between two bones actually provides the degree of freedom. So the ends of the bones are covered by articular cartilage. A bag-like synovial capsule encases the joint. Its inner ring, the synovial membrane, the outer is synovial capsule or synovial membrane, and inner is outside is synovial membrane. Sorry. So outside is the capsule, and inside is the membrane, and that membrane actually makes the synovial fluid. The hyaline or articular cartilage is a kind of shock absorber. We are talking about this cartilage to help dampen the effect of trauma or movement that is generated at joint between two articulating bones. So that was the structure of this uh, synovial joint, right? I hope it is clear. If you have any question, you can ask during question answer session. So there are six types of synovial joints or freely movable joints. So we'll see them in detail. Hinge joint, ball and socket joint, gliding joint, pivot joint, saddle joint, and ellipsoid joint, that is also called condyloid joint. First, hinge joint. Convex surface of a bone fits in concave surface of the second bone. These points should be noticed by you, that how many movements are possible in each type of joint. So hinge joints are uniplanar, and they are called hinge joints because they resemble the hinge of a door, right? And they are uniplanar. And the movement is possible in sagittal plane, sagittal or medial plane. So they resemble the hinge of a door. And the examples are knee joint, elbow joint, and interphalangeal joints, the joints between your phalanges. So one example that is shown over here is the example of the joint that is formed between your upper arm. This is the knee joint, so that is between the thigh bone and tibia and fibula. So this joint, that is your actually knee joint. So that is example of hinge joint. And movement produced at hinge joints are flexion and extension. So increase in angle and decrease in angle, as we have seen. So flexion is decrease in angle, extension is increase in angle. So at knee, elbow, and interphalangeal joints, the movement is flexion and extension. We saw the example of a knee joint. Another example of hinge joint is your elbow joint. Elbow joint is also example of your hinge joint. But here we are talking about the joint between humerus and radius and ulna. Right? There is a joint between radius and ulna as well. So that is a different joint. But the joint between humerus and radius and ulna, that is also called radiohumeral and radioulnar joint. So that is example of hinge joint. Your ankle joint is also example of hinge joint. So we saw that the joint formed over here between fibula and tibia was actually fixed joint. But collective joint between fibula, tibia and talus is actually first tarsal bone. So this joint that is formed over here, that is your ankle joint, and that is actually a hinge joint. Second type of joints is ball and socket joint. This joint has the greatest range of greater joint of movement possible. Greatest range of joint movement possible. And here the spherical head of one bone lodges in the spherical cavity. So there is a spherical head and there is a spherical cavity. And this is a three-planar joint. And it also allows rotation as well as circumduction. So examples are your shoulder joint and hip joint. So you can see here we have a joint that is formed between head of the femur. So that is the ball. And that there is a corresponding socket or cavity, this one, in which that ball fits. So that is ball and socket joint. Similarly, in the shoulder joint, the head of your humerus forms the ball, and then there is a corresponding cavity in which that ball fits, the socket in which that ball fits. So that is ball and socket joint. One thing that you can notice is that the socket in shoulder joint is shallow as compared to socket in the hip joint. And that is the reason why your shoulder joint is even more mobile than the hip joint. But actually the shoulder joint is the most mobile joint in human body. And here you can see in this schematic that rotation, actually you can notice that circumduction is possible in three different planes. So I will explain this point during the question answer session, that actually the circumduction is possible here in three different planes. So these are two examples of ball and socket joints. And next we have gliding joint. This is also called plane joint. Sliding movement of flat surfaces, usually limited in extent. There is sliding movement, but the range of movement is small. There is no rotation because there are strong ligaments that actually limit the free movements. The examples are the bones in the wrist, so intercarpal joint, the joint between the carpals. So you will see that there are more than one joints at your wrist as well. So one type of those joints is intercarpal joint. And similarly intertarsal joint, the joint between the tarsals. And another example is that we saw in the last lecture is sacroiliac joint. So that is also gliding joint. So linear movement is possible, as you can see in this figure, and range of movement is not too big. So this is example. This is showing the intercarpal joint. So as you move your hand right and left, so that is because of the joint between these carpals, and that is gliding or plane joint. Another example is sacroiliac joint. Yet another example is your facet joint, the joint between two joining vertebrae. So that is also gliding. The fourth type of joint is the pivot joint. It allows two bones to move in a rotational motion. So just like hinge joint, it is also uniplanar joint. Uniplanar joint. So two bones twist against each other like a wheel on an axle. And can you visualize in which plane actually the pivot joint allows movement? So hinge joint allowed movement in medial plane. Ball and socket actually we will see that in three planes. You just are the gliding joint, so you can visualize the planes here as well. And what about this pivot joint? So this allows rotation in transverse plane in anatomical position. Examples are your radioulnar joint in the elbow, radioulnar joint. So head of radius moves around ulna, and your joint between atlas and axis. So C1, C2, first cervical vertebra and the second cervical vertebra. So when you say no, for example, so that is using this joint. So this joint at the proximal end of radius and ulna. This joint. So this joint is an example of pivot joint. So this is at the proximal end of radius and ulna. So we saw that this joint was, what was this joint? This was hinge joint. But this joint, this one, between radius and ulna is pivot joint. So you can see that this end sort of fits in this, and rotation is possible. So it is at the proximal end, because you can see here humerus is joining. So this is the proximal end of radius and ulna. So joint between humerus, radius and ulna is hinge joint, and at the proximal end of radius and ulna is a pivot joint. Another example is the joint between C1 and C2. So as you rotate your head, your neck as a whole, that is because of this joint between atlas and axis, and that is actually a pivot joint. So movement is possible in one plane, and that is transverse plane in anatomical. Now the saddle joint and the last ellipsoid joint are special forms of ball and socket joints. I won't spend too much time on these. These are very special joints. So just I will go through very quickly. So in saddle joint, one bone that is saddle shaped and other bone fits like a person riding on the saddle. So one bone is just like a seat and other is just like someone sitting on that seat, on saddle actually, just similar to the seat or saddle of a horse. The saddle joint allows movement back and forth and up and down, but does not allow rotation like ball and socket. So carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb. So just visualize where it will be. Carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb. So carpo, metacarpal. So where are your carpals? In the wrist, and metacarpals in the palm. So you can see that at the distal end of your carpals and the proximal end of your metacarpal of the thumb, this joint is formed. So if you rotate your thumb, so you can see that it doesn't rotate actually exactly in the circle. This is not exactly the circular movement, right? So that is your carpo-metacarpal joint of the thumb. So somewhere over here. So you can see that at the distal end of this carpal and proximal end of the metacarpal of your thumb. Condylar joint is similar to this saddle joint, and they have similar characteristics to ball and socket joints as well. They allow the same type of movements but at a lesser magnitude. So as you saw in the thumb joint, that is not exactly the ball and socket joint. Similar to that, this joint, condylar joint, is also two planar, but not exactly circular movements are possible. So one example is your wrist joint. carpo-metacarpal joint, just like thumb joint, and between carpals, between the distal end of the carpals of your wrist and proximal ends of metacarpal for the rest of the 4 digits. So apart from thumb, we have other 4 fingers at the distal end of carpals and the proximal end of metacarpals of 2 to 5 digits. Similarly, joint between lower end of radius and the carpals, that is also called radiocarpal joint. So that is also this type of joint. So we saw that at the proximal and radius made 2 joints with humerus and ulna. One was hinge joint, the other was pivot joint, but at the distal end, it also makes joint with carpals, and that is condyloid. So we are talking about this joint. So at the distal end of radius with the carpals. So movement is again circular, but it is restricted by the shape of the joint and ligaments. So I will give you some time to just write down on your notebook which type of joint is indicated. So there are total 6 joints in the human body that are indicated. Just name them, what that joint is, and what is the type of the joint. Thank you very much.